Planty people, it's Krista with Botanical Bird, and this week I'm going to do a repotting and answer a couple of questions that people have messaged me on Instagram, and also kind of talk about some planting myths that I think are very common. So I just have a bunch of plants here that I recently got from a nursery, and while I generally do not think we should mess with plants after you buy them, I really want to, and I think that if I'm really careful, I won't disturb the root system or anything, so it will be okay, is my hope at least. So let's just get started. So I had on my Instagram, I posted something on my story to ask people if they had any questions that they might want me to answer during a Q&A while I repot some things. So someone I know posted or responded and asked about if I have any recommendations for low light plants that can go in a bathroom without windows. And best practice response is no plants, because all plants need light. That's the first myth I want to talk about, is that there's such a thing as a no care or no light plant. I think a lot of times at big box stores, they'll advertise a plant of steel, and it really bothers me when I see those, because that doesn't exist. There's not such a plant that can survive without any light at all. There are definitely plants that can do great in low light, but there's no such thing as a no light plant. So that's my best practice response, but it also sounds really mean, so I will definitely give you some recommendations. This is the first house I've ever lived in that had windows in the bathrooms. Since I've moved out of my parents' house years and years ago, I have had bathrooms without windows. And so I also have that exact same struggle. And actually this pot might be a little bit small for this plant, so I might take off more of the dirt and then backfill it on top. So in the bathrooms that I've had with no windows, I keep the door open as much as possible, and sometimes I even move my plants around. If I'm gonna leave for work that day, I might move the plant to the doorway of the bathroom and just leave it there so it can get more light. But I've had Sansevieria, I've had snake plants in my bathrooms without windows. I also had a lucky bamboo that survived for years, to my dismay, with very little light until it recently turned yellow and I had to get rid of a couple of stalks and move the rest. What else? I guess pothos and vining plants like that, kind of philodendron, are known for being pretty tolerant of low light, but I would not even really recommend those. I think the best thing I could say are snake plants, but I think if you move them around and keep them to where they can get light, maybe in the doorway, that would be best. Or maybe syngonium. Syngonium are known for being pretty low light and liking humidity, so maybe, but I think your best bet's probably snake plants. So there's my peperonia raindrop. I had one and I killed it, and so when I saw this at a local nursery, I got really excited and just jumped on it. Next, another planting myth I would like to talk about is that misting helps with humidity. And I talked about this in my video about how to care for humidity-loving plants. So I will put that up in the cards if you're on YouTube, or link it below if you're on Instagram. This might be hard to come out. But I was one of those people who misted my plants all the time because I wanted to be a great plant parent and help them and make sure that they had all the humidity they needed. But studies have shown that misting your plants does pretty much nothing for humidity because it evaporates so quickly. If you really want to increase the humidity around your plants, you're going to want to have a pebble tray or a humidifier, group plants together, things like that will actually increase the humidity long term. Misting can be nice in that it can help you clean the leaves of a plant, or if you just want to do a little planty activity and you don't want to buy more plants, you just kind of want to care for them, that's another great thing you can do. But I encourage you not to think that you're helping increase the humidity long term for that plant if you're going to mist it. And this, once again, I might have to break up a little bit. Another planting myth, speaking of breaking up the soil, is that you have to break up the soil around the root ball when you're repotting. That is a really common thing that a lot of people do, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's just not always necessary. That could maybe be best practice, but I'm not a very dainty, delicate plant person. And so when I'm repotting, if I try to separate the roots, I end up just doing more damage than good. And definitely if I'm ripping roots, breaking roots, that's going to be a lot more harmful for the plant than it is good. So if you're like me and you're not a very delicate person, I would recommend not breaking up the root ball and just kind of sticking a plant in a new pot and backfilling the negative space. Another one that I wanted to research because it's such a commonly thought idea, but I wasn't sure if it was actually true, is that plants purify the air. I was reading about it, and I guess NASA did this study in like 1938 or something, and they put plants in like small like glass containers and pump it with, I forgot the acronym, but it was like 3 letters, and it was like basically harmful gases. And the plants were shown to decrease the amount of gases, but I was reading an article by the National Geographic, and they were saying the only issue they have with that study is that the space and like the volume of the air and the containers to the ratio of gases was probably not very representative of our homes, right? Like we don't have our plants, I mean, unless you have it in a terrarium, like we don't generally have plants just in little spaces. And so National Geographic, I don't know if they cited a study or if they did their own study, but they were basically saying that sure, like plants do remove harmful gases from the air, but not at like a significant rate that actually improves the quality of our air like long term. And like they compared it to the efficiency of like air purifiers or like opening a window, and like plants just couldn't compete, unfortunately. So they were likening it to like if you really wanted to have plants for the purpose of purifying your air, you'd have to have 10 plants per square foot in your apartment or any living space. And like as much as we want to try, like that's not very viable, right? And so unfortunately, like yes, plants do purify the air, but not to the extent that we thought or that we would like to think, at least according to this article. Another planting myth that I have also subscribed to in the past is that you have to set out water before you water your plants for like 24 hours because harmful chemicals will dissipate if you have like tap water. And that is true for chemicals like chlorine. So if in your city they put chlorine in the water to make it more safe for you to drink, that will dissipate in 24 hours. But there's also many other types of harmful chemicals for plants in our water that's safe for us that don't dissipate within 24 hours. Like I think, was it chloramine or chloramide or something? So I used to set out water like a whole day ahead of time for all of my plants. So it was a lot of water in hopes that like I'd be doing all this great stuff for my plants. And like, sure, maybe it helped get rid of the chlorine, but if there's other chemicals, harmful chemicals that aren't going to dissipate, I kind of felt like, what's the point, right? So that's another myth. And I need to go get rooting hormone. I am propagating this. You probably can't see it from this far away. I like needed to put the camera really far away so you could see the mat. I am propagating a Peperomia piccolo banda that I have because it just like never did great for me, but it has a lot of small growth in the bottom of the pot. So I decided to scrap it, propagate it, and start over. And I didn't explain very well. So I talked about my Peperomia raindrop over here. I really want to like Peperomia. They just don't like me always. So I repotted that. And then I don't know what kind of succulent this was, but it was trailing and I got really excited about it. Let me put it on the white background. And so I got this too. I want to put it on my kitchen window, but I have a feeling it's going to need more light than what that area can provide. So we'll see. And then I have a couple of more little plants to pot, but I'm going to go grab some rooting hormone and be right back. Ta-da! I have my rooting hormone, and then while I was at it, I grabbed some Ziploc bags for a humidity bag. After I propagate the plant, I want to increase the humidity to promote root growth, and so I will put them in a Ziploc bag and mist inside it. That kind of sounds oxymoronic with what I just said about how misting doesn't increase the humidity around your plant, and that is true. But if I have my plant in something like a Ziploc bag that prevents air from leaving while I leave like a little space open so air can get to it, that will increase the humidity around the plant because it's stuck in a bag where there's lots of moisture. Okay, so I sliced these leaves. Peperomia are kind of fun to propagate, because you can slice the leaves and then stick them in rooting hormone and put them in the soil, and they will start to grow roots. And it takes a long time before they grow roots enough like to actually support itself and then even grow leaves, and they're really tiny. But you know what? This is better than throwing this plant away right now. So I'm gonna try it. For me, it is very hit or miss. I feel like I have greater success with the side of the leaf that had the petiole. Like I leave a little bit of the petiole, and I feel like that roots out quicker than the side of the leaf that just has the cut end. So I'm gonna try to include more of those because I only have so much space in here. Okay, one more I can put. Okay. And it's not a cute thing. Like when I do this, it's never cute. But if it can help a plant grow, it is worth it. Let's see. Okay. Let's see if I can show this to you. Here is the Peperomia piccolobanda. It's supposed to look like this, like all tall, kind of like that. But I sliced the leaves in half and I dipped them in rooting hormone. And like here's one that had a petiole on it. Can you see? And then I just like placed it on top of the soil. But you can see like all this small growth I had, that kind of just encouraged me to want to propagate the whole thing. And then my Peperomia raindrop that I showed you, also the official name is Peperomia polybatra. And then that succulent that I mentioned. Ta-da! You can't see my face, but the plant is what's important. There we go. All right, just a couple more. So I sprayed the soil with water just to make it moist before I put the leaves in. Now that it's all in there, I'm going to spray the inside of the bag after I find out which bag is the right size. I don't want it to be too small because I want air to be able to kind of circulate inside, but also I don't want it too big and just waste space. I might go with the bigger one just in case. I have the resources, why not? So a huge myth that I think a lot of people believe is that like you can't care for any plants. Like you're just not a plant person. Oh, this was right side in first, bummer. So I think a lot of people think that they kill all plants, and that's just not true. I think being a plant parent is a skill just like any other. Like I have killed my fair share of plants, aka this plant that I'm trying to propagate right now. And it's really all about just like learning from your mistakes and researching and finding out like what kind of plant works best for you. Like I can't care for as many high maintenance plants now that I could when I was working in the schools because I work longer hours now. And so I don't have the time to be checking on them as much as I did then. But that being said, I'm not going to get rid of my high maintenance plants that I already had. I'm just going to do my best and hope for dear life that they survive. The last myth I wanted to talk about is kind of more personal preference. And so like don't take my words for gospel truth because I am a flawed human and I just have opinions. This is a Pelea baby tears. I will show you guys when I'm done repotting. I'm kind of afraid because the root system seems very delicate, but it's so cute. Okay, so the myth in my opinion is that you should water your plant on a specific schedule with a specific amount of water. Like I've heard people or even plant shops say like, give this plant like 1 tablespoon of water once a week. And I think that that can be helpful to maybe know like if it's a really thirsty plant, if it likes to stay moist, if it really doesn't like to be in a moist environment. I think it's helpful for that sort of situation, but I put in too much soil. But I think that is not a way that is best to think about it. From like my research and like paying attention to what other plant people, more experienced plant people have said, is that you should be watering your plants until water freely flows from the bottom of the pot. So like a tablespoon of water is not going to do the trick, right? That's just going to like wet the top of the plant, the top of the soil. And so in my opinion, we should be watering our plants, checking our plants, kind of maybe check them once a week, but watering them as they need. So like sticking your finger in the soil, feeling the weight of the pot, trying to figure out when the plant is thirsty. And it might not always be on the exact same schedule as it has been. Like as the seasons change, so do our plants' needs. Because, well, maybe not if they're inside. Our plants might not know the difference when they're inside. I don't know about that. But for sure, in plants' natural environment, they like don't need as much in the winter because the sun's not as strong. And some plants go dormant. Although once again, I don't know if that's true for indoor plants. I definitely encourage like anyone who I talk to, if they have questions about watering their plants, to like stick your finger in the plant and just when it needs it to water it. Like if you ask me how frequently I water my plants, I probably couldn't tell you because one, I have a lot, but then two, it kind of just depends. It's not like every Wednesday I water a specific plant. Like I can tell you I check all of my plants once a week on the weekends. And if they need it then, I water them then. And if I happen to be able to check on them during the week, which does not happen as much anymore, and if they would need water, then I'll water them then. Like it's not a set schedule. And like plants do like routine. And so it will probably happen that they genuinely need to be watered at certain intervals. But I think it's best to kind of be more tuned into our plants instead of like a calendar. So that was my Pelea baby tears, and I'll show you that when I'm done potting this one too. So this is a cissus. I don't know what kind of cissus it is, and this soil is pretty darn moist. I need to show you the texture of this plant. I first saw this plant on Instagram by this person I follow who I think she lives in either Australia or New Zealand, and she just has the most beautiful plants ever. I'm not sure how she has the time to take care of all of them. It's very impressive. She had one of these and I was just really impressed with the texture. I'm usually not a person to get plants that kind of look like herbs. I got this at a local nursery that also has produce. I don't think I would have picked this up otherwise, but after I've seen it on this person's Instagram, I'm just really impressed and I really like how fuzzy it is. Okay, I'm hoping this will dry out quickly. I'm glad I'm putting it in a terracotta pot. I'll make sure to backfill it with dry soil. But yeah, so if you have any questions about any of the myths that I talked about, feel free to put them in the comments. Like I said, I did brief research for a lot of this, and some of it was opinion. So if you disagree, that's totally fine. A lot of these were just kind of my opinion. And like I didn't read peer-reviewed articles on stuff. Or if you have other planty myths, please feel free to put them in the comments below. I'm gonna get this plant in the middle of the pot. I put it kind of to one side. Ooh, okay, it'll be all right. Okay, so let me show you our finished products here. Here is our Pelea baby tears. Look at how precious and little. I really like trailing plants, you can tell. And then here's the cissus. Can you just see how fuzzy the leaves are? If you can hear that. And like the baby leaves, let's see if I can show you. The baby leaves that are coming out are even more white and fuzzy. It's crazy. So those were all of the plants that I had to take care of today. If you have any questions about any of the plants that I was repotting or propagating, feel free to put them in the comments below. And if you like this video, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's Botanical Bird, and bird has a U in it, not an I. And follow my Planty Instagram, which is @botanical_bird. Thank you, and don't forget, I'm rooting for you.